You know, ever since Age of the Prime Superion was revealed, I've been on a bit of a combiners kick. I've been buying up all sorts of combiners from all corners of Transformers, the old guard to the new blood, and even some outside of Transformers. And since I've started this hunt, it's caused me to reevaluate my thoughts on combiners. So I figured since this month is the month I was born, celebrate with the only way I know how, consuming the merchandise. So welcome, my friends, to March of the Combiners! Naturally, to begin with this odd look into the world of combiners, we're going to start with G1, which you may recall I didn't have the best experience with before. But we're looking a bit later into the toy line with Predaking. Now, by season 3 of the show and year 3 of the toy line, we kinda knew what to expect with combiners. The Scramble City combiners came and went with their fragile joints and all, but year 3 gave us 2 combiners outside of the typical Scramble City build. One is Abominus, who changed the combiner game by having a never-before-seen feature, knees, and just a lot better articulation in general. And then there was Predaking, who changed the combiner game in general just by being so beautiful. Like, not that the other combiners looked bad, but Predaking just always looked so majestic. Like, he always felt more akin to a giant mecha in a tokusatsu show that somehow wound up in Transformers. Like, are we sure this wasn't a third-party design like Omega Supreme or Skylynx? Well, regardless, he certainly had a design that carried the character, appearing in many anime sequels, getting a new Titan figure, and a reintroduction in Prime where he wasn't a combiner anymore, which just feels wrong. Well, regardless, I have all the Predacons here for you today, no relation, and immediately they're quite impressive on size alone. Like, for comparison, just one of these guys comes up to Devastator's chest. Pretty dang cool for the time, but enough prattling. Let's get this Predacon party started. Hey, sorry for the interruption, but have you subscribed yet? Well, why not? Because not everyone who watches this video may be subscribed. I upload new videos weekly alongside other shorts and live streams, so hit subscribe and hit the bell for updates on new videos. Once I hit 7,500 subscribers, I'm planning a big retrospective on Metroplex, so that's something to get excited for. Also, consider becoming a channel member. Your financial support goes into making these videos and would be a massive help. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
Razorclaw.
Let's start off with the leader of the Predacons, no relation, with Razorclaw. I'm starting him in his alt mode for now since his robot mode will be Formula Torso. Man, what a cat! This is a seriously gorgeous alt mode for the time. Whereas a lot of animal modes were happy with zero articulation even in the Beast era, this guy actually has a bit of jointage to allow for some movement. Also, this color scheme as well. This red, orange, and black and gold color scheme is amazing. Doubly so, as G1 enthusiasts might have noticed, this isn't technically the original G1 toy. This is actually the Platinum Edition from 2014, which has some tougher material and more cartoon-accurate colors. Also, plenty of stickers that I applied where I felt like applying them because I hate stickers! His robot mode, sadly, I don't think is quite as impressive. Like, don't get me wrong, he stands tall and there is some solid articulation for the time, including a waist pivot. But some parts like his hands and arms are just so stumpy even for the time. But he does still look the part for the time, even if the arms are a bit of a pain with how stiff they are.
Headstrong.
Next up is this horny fellow with Headstrong. Headstrong doesn't have the same level of articulation as his leader, but he does get some nice arms for the time, and he also feels remarkably heavy. In fact, all the Predacons have quite a bit of die-cast metal in them, which is really surprising for the time. Like, other robots had die-cast metal, but these guys feel like blunt weapons. Headstrong turns into everyone's second favorite Rhino in Transformers. He's not very articulated, but he does have a nice head tilt for the times. You can use him for some hilarious animal reactions like a bad kids comedy movie.
Like, I want to get chocolate wasted.
Tantrum.
Next up is Tantrum, Torox. Hasbro, you and your copyright issues, I swear. Torox is probably the weakest of the figures so far, with a very goofy look even for the time. It's like he's wearing some hoodie pajamas. The arms have ratchet joints, which is cool for the time, but they're very stiff and don't feel the strongest, so take good care of them.
Harder, Daddy!
Zorox's bull form is a solid, pretty lump of metal and plastic, like the Rhino. But it still feels pretty solid for the time, and he can still tilt his head like a bad kid's movie.
Rampage.
Next with the Predacons is Rampage, no relation, who definitely is one of the most impressive Predacons so far, now coming with some pretty solid articulation for the time. Like we got knees and a waist in comparison to a lot of the others. The arms are still stumpy, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. I also love his face mask and sloped helmet. Rampage holds up a lot better than the last two with far more articulation than the rest. Like even in comparison to a lot of the Zords from my Megazord video, he has actual feet articulation, which just goes a long way for posability. Though it does make me wonder, when did toy manufacturers decide, you know what would be good for our toys? Balls.
Divebomb.
And that brings us into our final piece with Divebomb, who I can say with certainty is my favorite Conehead. He's definitely the most articulated of all the pieces so far. We got arms, waist, legs, knees. For his time, he might as well be a masterpiece figure. We even got some ratchet joints and metal bar joints. Plus the style of the time. And these wings certainly do a lot to give him some presence, though they don't plug in particularly well. Divebomb's bird form isn't quite as impressive as some of the other animals. I mean, he's clearly on his tummy and the wings are on his back rather than on his sides. But there's still a lot to love. I mean, just look at the head sculpt for his bird. It's so cocky looking and it even has an articulated jaw, something none of the other animals have. Predaking's troops are certainly a hefty bunch, but they're still very impressive for the time, especially compared to other combiners. Like, remember, most combiners were of the Scramble City variety and Devastator, and these guys on size and build quality blow them out of the water. Also, while there still are parts you gotta attach, I like how a lot of the weapons and parts can attach onto their animal forms. Helps for both storage and making it feel less parts formating. But enough talk, let's bring out the king. Predaking's combination is absolutely wonderful. It's very easy to pick up and do, like you don't even really need a manual. Everything makes sense where it's supposed to go. In fact, all the transformations have been really top notch. Seriously, it's great. And again, in comparison to every other combiner out at the time, Predaking just looks absolutely majestic. Doesn't he look kind of like that giant Megazord toy I looked at a while back? He looks so clean and organized. He's not a typical Transformer combiner. Where's the fragile limbs, the bits falling off? Especially when you consider this guy has some serious articulation for the time. Get a load of this. We got wrists, which not only is unique for the time, but they can butterfly a bit. Legs can move in and out. Shoulders rotate, but they are very stiff, so be very careful. Waist swivel. Head can go up and down, but don't you just hate a stiff neck in the morning? We even got knees. Okay, obviously it's not super crazy and he's not going to do a great job holding the pose, but come on, this is way beyond almost all the other combiners of the time. But I will say there's a problem with all the metal that's inside. He's so heavy, I think it's resulted in him being a little lopsided. Like, I got this guy brand new in the box and he came pre-packaged combined. And to my eyes, he looks like he's a little bit tuckered out. I think there's a reason why most combiners come packaged separately. And of course, he doesn't have the joints of a modern figure either, so it feels a bit wonky. But just keep in mind, for the time, this was a massive step forward to getting the Combiners where they are now in terms of sizing. And since I used Bandai's DX robots as comparison when I looked at G1 Devastator, this guy was leagues above those figures and the ones that had come out for years to come. Because not only can the individual components transform, but he has way more articulation. He's just brimming with great play value for the time. All the more impressive when you consider a lot of the larger transforming figures were experimenting with things like motors and lights and missile launchers. Meanwhile, this guy was all about the combination and the articulation, which arguably was the right step for Combiners overall. Out of all the G1 Combiners I've encountered, this is definitely the best one. It retains the novelty factor of a lot of G1 while still being more fundamentally sound. I totally get why they've re-released this guy a few times since he originally came out. Sure, he's been supplanted in size and playability by his Titan class update later on, but there's still a lot to love here. If you can find a set for a good price, which good luck with that, it is well worth the look. But tell me, what do you think about Predaking? Do you think he's worth the hype or no? Let me know in the comments, please subscribe and stay tuned for more March of the Combiners.